Good early evening. This is Houndog Steve coming to you, as I said, on the autumnal equinox. First day of fall is tomorrow, I believe. And so I thought I'd do a sort of bit of a vlog and a catch-up because there have been a lot of things going on, and you probably noticed that I haven't been making as many videos just lately. It's been about, I don't know, 8 or 9 days or so. But I had a lot of work to do in the garden. As you can see, I had to get my wood all taken care of before the cold weather hits, and just generally other prep stuff. I'm also working on a project called the Grey Army, and that's been taking up some of my time to produce a website and a Facebook page, and I'll be explaining that in another video. It's quite an interesting concept though. And of course there's the ongoing reno in my kitchen, and of course there's the Bobcaygeon Farmers Market, which is it's not a hugely busy committee, but there is some commitment required there. And of course I am the chair of Citizens for Direct Democracy, and this is a group trying to bring direct democracy to our municipality here. So between that and work, boy oh boy, it takes up an awful lot of time. But one of the other things I wanted to do was just basically step back for a moment and take a breath. There have been some things taking place lately which have been absolutely stunning. You know, the mental gymnastics that you have to do to incorporate some of the events that have taken place, not the least of which is the Saudi Arabian drone attack on their oil facilities. That has cut their output by 25%, and the cost of fuel has immediately spiked 15%. This is going to ripple through the marketplace in ways that we can only imagine. It will increase all costs. All costs will have to go up, and coupled with the carbon tax is going to make things very, very tenuous. But there are other things that take a little bit to get your head around, and that is the contradictions and paradoxes in the world today, especially in the world of politics. And so we're seeing that people in government are trying to shut down free speech in the name of democracy. This sounds an awful lot like the elections in Turkey or in China that they had recently, which basically eliminated the need for elections and made Tayyip Erdogan and Xi Jinping president for life in the name of a democratic process called voting. Now, how do you get your head around that? We have just recently had a situation in Canada here where Justin Trudeau was caught in blackface, 3 separate incidents, and it has been kind of an embarrassment because after the second one he said there was no more, and the third one turned up, and but the point is, and I think the point that's being missed here, is the double standard. You know, if this had been anybody else, and we've seen this, you know, with Megyn Kelly, for example. You know, she even said that she couldn't see what was wrong with blackface, and she was fired immediately from her job. So there are people who've lost careers, that have been vilified for far less from the word police out there. And here we have Justin Trudeau gives an apology, and there is a free pass. And as I say, you know, my generation, you know, dressing up in blackface, although I've got to say, I have never ever dressed up in blackface, nor have I really wanted to dress up in blackface. I never really saw the attraction in that, and I don't remember ever seeing anybody of my generation dressing up in blackface at fancy dress, Halloweens, anything like that. The only time I saw blackface was on the television, and that was the black and white minstrel show, Al Jolson. It was like an Al Jolson takeoff thing, and but that was meant to celebrate the voice and the songs of Al Jolson and of that era. So I'm kind of wondering how common a practice it really was. You know, I was born in '53, and so as I say, I have never seen, you know, anyone really dressed up in blackface in a way like that. However, that said, you know, I do truly believe that this is just something in poor taste that you might regret, but we've been doing a lot of this just lately. We've been dragging up stuff from 20 and 30 years ago and judging people by today's standards, when firstly those standards weren't in place in that day, and secondly, if you're going to do this, let's have a level playing field. We either vilify everybody alike, which I don't agree with, or we just take it as one of those things that was in poor judgment, bad taste, and let it go. Now, I'm not talking about things being dragged up from the past that are absolutely heinous. Okay, if you did away with your wife or your mother or your husband or your father or da-da-da, of course, that should be revisited, and a crime has been committed and it should be addressed through the justice system. But for hearsay stuff, for poor judgment, let's stop being so sensitive about all of this stuff. And as we can plainly see, this sort of stuff comes back and haunts, because, as it says in the Bible, who's going to cast the first stone, you or I? Who has sinned more? Who has sinned first? I don't think there is anybody that has things in the past that they regret having done, having made poor judgment. So there is not one of us would not be embarrassed to be in that particular situation. So, as I say, we either have to learn to forgive each other and get over it, or we apply the same standard to all people, because what's going on now is so unfair, it is absolutely unbelievable. And I'm seeing it everywhere. Another example is with Brexit. And of course all the other treaties that they had to have a second vote on because the first vote wasn't good enough. I mean, what kind of situation is that? You have to get your head around stuff like that. This is stuff that would never even pass in a kindergarten classroom. Okay, the teacher or the supervisor would step in and be telling people to play fairly, to stop cheating and grabbing and stealing and pushing people around and trying to get them behind the eight ball and this kind of stuff. We're accepting behavior that is absolutely incredible. And these, of course, are the people who are moralizing over us. They're trying to stop us from being bad people and using wrong think and wrong speak and all of this kind of stuff. And yet they are just as bad, if not worse. If not worse. Well, what about the shutting down of freedom of speech? And I'm going to be doing another video on that this evening in more detail. But across the world, we are seeing supposedly left-leaning governments. The EU, the globalists, are supposed to be a democratic, left-leaning, inclusive ideology, and yet they are shutting down. They're supposed to be the defenders of freedom of speech. They certainly were back in the 60s and the 70s when Vietnam was going on. They were demanding the right to speak and demanding the right of free speech, and now they want to shut it down. And of course what I think is going on is that basically you've had the globalists have invaded both the Republican, Democratic, Liberal and Conservative parties, and they're basically riding on the backs of the moderates. So both sides have brought in their extreme ideologies and they're masquerading as centrist liberals and conservatives. And you can always tell, a globalist, because that's what they want to do. They want to bring in these big deals, the TPP, CETA, NAFTA, everything that suits the corporations and makes it easier for corporations to get away with blue murder, and makes it more and more difficult for mom and pop operations to survive under increasing regulation, increasing bureaucracy, politicians handing off to bureaucrats and not taking responsibility and not responding to the public's demands or wishes or even their best interests. Shutting down freedom of speech, and of course you know why they do that, because they don't want to hear you complaining. Okay, we are on the cusp of some dramatic changes. Down in Peterborough there, as I said, I was down at the Purple Onion Festival. Well, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I actually wrote a song called Payday Loans. I believe it is, I forget when I put it up on my channel, but it was talking about the way payday loan places basically put you in a terrible position financially and to stay away from them. And that this was the beginning of basically the downgrading of your economy. When you start seeing payday loan places spring up all over the place, you know that your local economy is in big, big trouble, because essentially what that says is there's too much month at the end of the money. Okay, so course, nobody was paying heed at the time. So here we are 10 or 12 years later, and we've got Tent City in Peterborough now. And I will guarantee you that for every single person in that tent city, there will be 100 people hanging from the lowest branch on the tree waiting to fall into a tent city. So inflation is overtaking people with these food shocks that are going to come through oil, the lack of production because of poor weather across North America, South America and Europe. Food prices are going to go through the roof. We are in for a serious situation, folks, and if this winter is as bad and as cold from the volcanic eruption Shivalush through ash up into the atmosphere, up into the stratosphere actually, 22 kilometers, we are going to have a globally cooled winter in the northern hemisphere. This is going to put such incredible pressures on households for heating bills. You know, if something's going to go wrong with your vehicle, I'll guarantee you it'll be in the winter, in February when it's minus 30, minus 25, and all the metal is under great stress and this kind of thing. So I just wanted to take some time and step back and sort of wrap my head around all of these things that are taking place at the same time all over the world. It is absolutely incredible to see, but it is also overwhelming. And so I hope you'll excuse and forgive me, but I just sometimes have to ground myself in the garden or go out kayaking or just let these things mull over in my mind so I can wrap my head around them. And I would actually encourage other people to do the same, do a little contemplation, just sort of gain a little perspective. You know, the eco-warriors. I heard the other day about violent vegans. These are vegans in Australia that are attacking beef farmers. You know, this is now getting into the point of, you know, physical assaults taking place. This is a very dangerous step, my friends, a very dangerous step. And so you do have to step back and, like I say, get your head wrapped around this, because you do not want to be pulled into the temptation to respond to this stuff in a violent manner. Violence begats violence. That's the only thing you can be absolutely certain of. And so yeah, we need to stay calm. We are going to need to get along with each other, and that's again why I'm concerned at the polarization that's taking place, and especially at our level. You know, we are the people who are going to have to link arms against diversity in our communities and learn how to mitigate and to get around, you know, problems. You know, I mean, say for example, there is a huge downturn in the economy. We are going to have to start up cooperatives where you can trade clothes, where you can trade your hours for other things in the community, where we have community meetings. You may have to put on community meals. Who knows? And as socialist as that may sound, that's what communities do when they're in trouble. And you can't do that if you ain't getting along. So I hope that calmer heads will prevail. And anyways, as the nights start to draw in, of course all of this stuff is going to start exploding. You know, Brexit is coming up October 31st. I saw Yellow Vests Act 45 is going on this weekend. The Hong Kong demonstrations are still ongoing and have got larger rather than smaller. Oh yes, there'll be plenty of stuff to be talking about in the coming days, and so as I say, the nights we're drawing in, I'll be getting on top of that and bringing you hopefully a lot more videos. I love doing this stuff, I love communicating with you people, and I hope that I'm generating a conversation and to create and to nurture ideas of how we can go forward as a society, because we've never been here before. We've never had this many people on the planet. We've never had to manage such a large and long supply chain. And what are we going to do if that breaks down? You know, so we're going to need independent thinkers, ingenious people, ingenious ideas. I think Bitcoin is still, I'm still incredibly bullish on Bitcoin as a community coin. Okay, it overcomes all of the problems that you have with the quarter loon, because you can spend it anywhere. It's acceptable. As long as we have hydro, there you go. We will be able to transact in Bitcoin, Litecoin or Ethereum. Anyway, as Amazing Polly says, I'm going to stop talking now, and I would highly recommend watching Amazing Polly. She is absolutely amazing. And another channel that I've come across just lately is Dr. Edward Dutton, the Jolly Heretic, and he's done some incredible work on genetics and why things work, how things happen, and he's jolly interesting too. So please, I can highly recommend those two channels. Go check them out. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we will talk to you very, very shortly. See you now. Take care. Bye.